I was pleased yesterday to present to the University of Massachusetts Board of Trustees the name of Dr. Robert Johnson as the new Chancellor at UMass Dartmouth. That nomination was approved yesterday unanimously by the Board of Trustees. Couple of words about the search. We had a great search. It was transparent. It was inclusive. I want to thank all the people in the search committee for the great job that they did. And frankly, they produced 3 candidates. I think any of the 3 finalists could run this institution. I made those comments yesterday, and another university looking for a president called me and asked me the names for the other 2 people who were involved in the search. But I recommended Dr. Robert Johnson because he is an outstanding leader. He has significant experience in both public higher education and private higher education. He is a leader at Becker College and in Worcester, which is the 2nd largest city in Massachusetts. And everyone who you talk to in Worcester talks about his leadership, leading the chamber there. He has a long, distinguished record in higher education. He's demonstrated a ability to communicate effectively, to grow enrollment, to grow expertise in academic programming, to make universities great, and that's what we need at this particular time. So I was very pleased that we were able to get Robert, and delighted to present him to the UMass Dartmouth community. Let me also say that I believe that this university is at a critical moment in time in its history. The challenges in higher education are significant. It is a very competitive business. We're looking to find a way to offer more programming at as low a cost as we can. We need to manage enrollment. This institution has a law school that was just nationally accredited by the American Bar Association. So this is a critical point in time in the history of this institution. I think that we need a visionary leader like Dr. Robert Johnson. So with that, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank President Meehan for his appointment of me to this position. I'm humbled and honored to come and serve as the Chancellor here at the University of Massachusetts. This is Dartmouth's campus. This is an exciting time. I think we have lots of possibilities in terms of where this institution can go. When you look at UMass Dartmouth as a Tier 1 national research university, the possibilities are unlimited. And I think that I'm excited about what we can do here, working together as a team, working with faculty, students, staff, the administration, and the entire Commonwealth to not only evolve this fine institution into its next chapter within its history, but also the South Coast region, because I think that this is a partnership that is inseparable, that will help everyone involved, the community, the legislature, internally and externally, to do great things. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much. And first and foremost, we're going to put our students first, because ultimately that's what we're here for. So thank you. I'm very appreciative, and I look forward to this great journey.
Questions?
You mentioned something yesterday, or maybe I just overheard it, something you saying something about branding.
Mm-hmm.
Branding the university. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you have in mind?
Well, I don't have anything specific in mind. I think as once we get going here, sitting down, listening, understanding what our strengths are, and figuring out, what's going to be our message about this great institution as we go forward. One of my mentors used to always say, when it comes to messaging and branding, repetition is the motherhood of study. And, who are we? What do we do well? And then let's find the loudest drum and the tallest building and shout it out so that the world can hear it and so that we can bring everyone here so that they can see it. And I think that's part of what all great institutions do. You know, if I told you, for example, that Marty went to MIT, you'd instantly think he was a rocket scientist, wouldn't you? Okay? But if I told you he was an English major, you'd be like, really? But you would still think he was really bright. Okay? Branding, messaging. Every institution, great institution, when all is said and done, when you think of them, they're really only known for one or two, maybe three programs. And then there's a halo effect for the rest of the programs. So for us, how do we take our status as a Tier 1 national research university, and how do we highlight some of the key programs to build our international brand around? And I think that's a collaborative effort, working with faculty, staff, and students, and the greater community to figure that out. So I'm not going to come in and say, here's what we need to do. I don't have enough information for that yet.
From my perspective, just the fact that just the answer that you just got is part of the reason why Robert was chosen. I mean, I mentioned we're in a very highly competitive business, and branding is important. Part of the reason why this university wanted to merge in 1991 with the other UMass campuses was because the UMass brand was worth something. It's a nationally, internationally known brand. So I think any cutting-edge college leader today, a university leader, needs to know the impact of branding, and it's significant.
So when you talk about bringing UMass Dartmouth to the national level in some form of appeal of branding, you know that most of our students, 80% in fact, are from the Massachusetts area. And that helps us engage with the South of the region, especially because we service a lot of students here. Would you like to see the other 20% are like foreign exchange, national students from other states, et cetera, increase?
So I'm going to parse my answer to that question. I mean, it's going to be twofold. I have not seen any data yet. I was just appointed yesterday, so I don't know what the enrollment data looks like. And I've heard various numbers. 85% are from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that's fine. Where the other 15 or 20% will come from, I think that is yet to be determined. I simply don't know. But in principle, this is what I would say when it comes to branding. This institution, the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, is part of the world-renowned University of Massachusetts system. It is the #1 public system in New England. It's in the top 30 across the country. It is world-ranked. UMass Dartmouth is part of that brand. And I think that whatever we end up doing, we must build upon that, because to the extent that we can elevate our name recognition, not just in the Commonwealth, not just in New England, not just across the country, but across the globe. And you know what? If we discover that there's life on Mars, there too, so that everyone knows about us. And then we can begin to shape our institution in the way that we deem appropriate. So I can't specifically answer your question as to where that other 15 or 20% should come from, simply because I think these decisions, as I've done it in the past, they have to be data-driven. So until I can get down into the data, talk to the enrollment people, marketing people. I understand we have a Center for Marketing Research here. Are we using them to do analytics to help us better understand where our niche markets are? Until I have that data, it's just hard for me to say at this point. But in principle, the world will know about UMass Dartmouth. So, there'll come a day that if you go to China and you say that you're from UMass Dartmouth, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, UMass Dartmouth. If you go to Germany and say UMass Dartmouth, they'll be like, oh, yeah, UMass Dartmouth, part of the world-renowned University of Massachusetts system. That's what we want, because that brand, having that type of name recognition for you as a student, the value of your degree goes up exponentially. And that's why it's important for us to do that. one of the reasons. And so I'm excited about the possibilities, but I'm not going to walk into the door saying, here are the answers. You know, all of us are smarter, much smarter than any one of us. And I think collectively, when we do the data analysis, we look at the analytics and a number of other things, we'll come to some good stuff. And the best is yet to come.
Are you interested in expanding online degree offerings?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a statistic I recently read, something like 45% of all students in high school take at least one online course across the country. So the notion that we're going to have an educational model that does not include some element of online just doesn't, it is not meeting the needs of the present time. So that's one piece of the equation. And many of those classes some of those classes can be hybrid. But I think there's another element here that we have to consider. The South Coast, per capita, has the highest number of people who have some level of college education who have not completed. So it just seems to me that for the working adult, that we ought to be able to create and evolve a robust program for people who would like to complete their degrees fully online. And again, you said, well, what will that look like? Well, I don't have enough data and information to make that assessment at this point, but just intuitively, if there are people who need to complete their degrees and we can create the infrastructure to help them do that, it just makes sense. And oh, by the way, 70% of all people who attend college are adults, not traditional age students. So therein is a marketing opportunity in terms of growing our enrollment if we can put together the proper infrastructure and what have you in order to make that happen.
When you say proper infrastructure, obviously the school has one of its tenets been placed on affordability.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, for example, with online classes, you can enroll in your question. Would you like to see any increased availability to like manage way as applied to online classes with like incentives possibly?
Well, in terms of financial aid, you know, there are federal regulations associated with how financial aid is administered. So when it comes to Pell Grants and what have you, you know, logically we would try and structure the program in such a way that students can take full advantage of Pell Grant opportunities and any other federal aid that's out there. The second thing is, you know, one of the goals is, you know, how do we go out and garner resources to strengthen our ability to give out more research dollars. I mean, to give out research dollars, but also scholarship dollars. And the way that we do that is through fundraising. You know, so, you know, part of what we have to do an analysis of is, you know, how well are we doing given our size and type in terms of raising money? You know, are we spending that money effectively and efficiently? And how do we go out and get more? Because the more money we can raise, the more dollars we have available for scholarships.
Yesterday, Chairman Manning mentioned the need to invest more money in the campus, and it seemed to me he was speaking of the physical plant. Could you talk a little bit more, both of you, or one of you talk a little bit more about that?
I will defer to my president, but I will say this. This is my sixth institution where I've worked, and all campuses have infrastructure and deferred maintenance challenges / opportunities, and it doesn't matter how wealthy they are or how poor they are. And, you know, clearly there are some things that we need to, will need to do here at UMass Dartmouth, but I think the most important thing that we can do that will help us to garner resources to do that is how do we work together as a UMass Dartmouth family and create a sense of community and pride so that the world wants to be a part of this place? How do we make ourselves a vital asset to this local community so the local community will rally around us and take our message global? And to the extent that we do that, then we will be able to garner resources. I don't think the solution to our problem is as simplistic as, well, let's just go to the state and get more money. It's tight economically every place. So I think it starts with us, and it's about community. It's about family. It's about the value proposition of the education our students receive. And to the extent that we build that, then we're able to attack the deferred maintenance, because not only will our president want to support us doing that, and not only will the chair and the board want to support us doing that, but the community will, the state will, the region will, the region will, the entire world will. So I tend to approach these things that we start with ourselves first. Let's make sure we have strong community, family, strong values in terms of respecting one another, and building the name recognition of this institution within our own. Where everybody's walking around with UMass Dartmouth on their chest and proudly, telling the world that this is the greatest institution on the planet. So I think it's a twofold answer. And yes, we do need money. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but I don't think it's as simplistic as that.
Obviously, the chairman of the board, Rob Manning, is very enthusiastic about all 5 campuses, and in particular, he feels that he's excited about the new leadership here at Dartmouth, and he wants to do everything he can as board chair to give Dartmouth the ability, if it's borrowing money to invest in deferred maintenance, he wants to see that happen. I think he'll be cooperative as he can, and believes it needs to be an investment in deferred maintenance here. Obviously, if you borrow money for deferred maintenance, you need to pay it back, which means enrollment is absolutely critically important. So I'm confident that that once Robert gets up here and is rolls up his sleeve, is going to work, we'll find a way to find the revenue to pay that, and the campus will make those decisions of where those investments ought to be made in deferred maintenance. I want to comment on what Dr. Johnson said relative to community. One of the reasons why I chose Dr. Johnson was because he is a collaborative leader, and I really believe that UMass Dartmouth is at a critical juncture, and I would just say to our state legislative delegation, to our public officials, to our faculty, to the business leaders, it's time for everyone to join and collaborate and work as hard as we all can together. Because there have been times when I haven't seen that here. And I know a little bit about the impact of a regional public research university has on a community, because I know the effect that UMass Lowell has had on Lowell. So I think it's really important that the university community and the external community come together and unite behind Dr. Johnson and find a way to work together, whether it's through fundraising, whether it's through more internships with the business community, whether it's with the state legislative delegation getting on board with an agenda that makes sure that the state makes its commitment that it needs to make to UMass Dartmouth. I think all of those things are going to be essential for the success of this institution. And I think we have a wonderful opportunity for everyone, all segments of the community, to come together, internal and external, to support Dr. Johnson and his efforts. I know he's a collaborative leader. I have seen firsthand the impact he's had on the greater Worcester community, and I want to see that same kind of impact here on the South Coast.
We have one more question.
For community, you mentioned getting required community interaction. There have been some divisions recently on campus with, for example, the Black Lives Matter in the hallway.
Mhm.
And the recent political election has had some controversy and division. What would be your potential response to that when you assume chancellorship this semester?
Well, so fundamentally, I believe that the academy, I think institutions of higher learning that they really are, or should be, this epicenter for freedom of speech. And I think one of the things that's missing in our society, and even among institutions of higher learning, is this whole notion of civil discourse. And, how do we have a debate and agree to disagree, and then you and I go out and shoot hoops afterwards? you know, that you can be on one end of the spectrum, I can be on the other end of the spectrum, and it's not about, you know, us against them, you know, that you can have a perspective that I respect, I can have a perspective that you respect, and it can be different. And you know what? That's okay. You know, so if you put it in political terms, you know, I always use the example of Tip O'Neill, one of the great legislators of the 20th century, Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, and Ronald Reagan, okay? Tip O'Neill, about as liberal as they come. Ronald Reagan, about as conservative as they come. But throughout the 80s, they got things done, and they had civil discourse in public, but they got along. And as I understand it, they were pretty good friends, okay? So I think, you know, so it doesn't matter what the issue is. I mean, we can pick any issue. So I think, you know, one of the things that we must do is make sure that we create an environment so that civil discourse can take place. It shouldn't be mean-spirited. I hate you, you hate me because you disagree with me, or because I disagree with you. We're family. You have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah.
You ever argue with them? Okay. Do you love them any less? No. And in fact, if somebody else tried to attack them, you'd run to their defense, wouldn't you? That's what the UMass Dartmouth family's got to be about. You know, that we can have civil discourse, but you let somebody from outside try and say something about us, that they will see an opponent unlike the world has ever seen. So that's kind of my view as to an approach with those things. And this is America, you know, First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.